Bonsoir, everyone. I am Cap, your panel host, one more time, and today we have Veronica Hamilton of Unwritten, aka V.
Hey there. Um, so, um, I just kind of wanted to start out by saying I want to thank the Mysterium committee for having me here and being very, very cordial and helpful throughout the whole thing. Unfortunately, my brilliant and creative wife is not here today. She's at an art show displaying her work and once again being brilliant and creative. So, um, you might see I'm a fan of her. So. Um, I figured I'd start off with a couple of things, just kind of give some thanks to some people, um, shameless plug here and there, um, and then go on to talk about some of the things that we're doing with Unwritten and with Inkworks. Um, and after that, I don't know how long it'll be. It might be pretty quick. So everybody start thinking about those questions you want answered. And so when I'm done with my spiel, we'll go ahead and answer your questions and talk about the sort of things that you guys want to hear. Um, so let's start off with once again, thank you to the Mysterium committee. Thank you to all you guys out there, all you fans. As always, everybody does this for you guys. Um, and you guys have always been great to me and very welcoming. So thank you very much for that. I want to give a shout out to all of our patrons on the Unwritten Voices Inkworks Patreon. Thank you very much. You help keep us going, pay the bills, and we'll be talking more about the Patreon later. Um, I also want to give some shout outs to the players in the Unwritten live stream. Cap is one of them. Plays Celia. We also have Thomas who plays Laundress, Ilana who plays Tome, Q who plays Kennett, and Farah who plays Mashavan. We're having a lot of fun over there. I just got up the video onto our YouTube channel of our 5th session. All of the sessions that we had so far are up there. So if you want to go ahead and take a look, I'll warn you, they're long. They're like 3 hours a piece or so, since they're full sessions, but you can see everything there. So yeah, thank you guys for making this a really interesting game. And hopefully we're going to have a lot more fun with it. Of course, thank you to Cyan. They're why we're here. As always, buy Cyan stuff, give them money. I want to especially call out Grey Dragon, Ryan Warsheka, as the person who works with Inkworks on Unwritten and on our other projects. GD is a great leader and a great liaison to Cyan, and we can't do the stuff that we do without him. So just wanted to give him kind of a special thing. So yeah. So I want to talk a little bit about Inkworks itself. Inkworks, is actually just a small company consisting of 3 or 4 people. So I mean, we're company sort of in the most literal sense in that we have a business license, but otherwise we're just kind of a group of people. And we're contracting to Cyan, and one of the things that we do is we are working on Unwritten since we created it, and Cyan was gracious enough to acquire it as a part of their family. And we're really excited the idea that Unwritten has become an official part of the Cyan family of products under the Cyan Ventures. But it started off as just a side idea I had one day while playing Uru, and it became something much bigger. And I'm really happy that Cyan has found it worthy to sort of take on. And they are being gracious enough to put their trust in us to start working on doing more things with Unwritten. I also want to talk about some of the other things that we're doing. Inkworks also does what we call the lore team. We are a team, we work as lore curators for Cyan. We archive a lot of their information, we collect it together. The Guild of Archivists wiki has become the official wiki for Cyan's, for the Myst universe, and we work with them on that. Gary, aka Alamnot, has been working, running the Guild of Archivists for years and decades, literally at least over a decade now. And so So it's really nice to see him get that sort of recognition, and to be able to do more and more of that for both Cyan and the community. Um, Also, we're going to be more involved in things that are going into Uru itself, the fan created content and such. Alnat will be working with people on going over lore, um, checking lore against existing things, and kind of moving that lore information into the Cyan extended universe, which is the unexplored branches. Also, once again, Unwritten falls under the extended universe of unexplored branches. So it's not necessarily canon in and of itself, but it does kind of fit into that extended universe that Cyan has an eye on, and that they do some oversight, but they also give us a lot of room so that we can do creative things. So the big thing that we've been doing right now is we have a Patreon. It's called Unwritten Voices. It is the first. This Patreon is the first time we've done a lot of the things that we've been doing. We've done the live stream. We were working on podcast. We put out some small bits of content. So it's been a little rough. Those of you who are on the Patreon, it's been a little quiet for a bit. And so I wanted to let you know and let everybody know that we'll be restructuring the Patreon a bit, both in terms of the levels and what sort of things we're going to be doing with that sort of thing, and the funds from it. We're going to start focusing a little bit more right at the moment on live streaming. The live stream game has been very successful. We've got a great group of people who come out regularly onto the chat. We've had a lot of good discussion about it, both on the Cyan Discord server and our own. We found some people who are very enthusiastic about Unwritten, and we're really happy about that. So we're going to kind of try to focus on that for a bit. The Strange Seeds game will continue. As the people who were watching last episodes, we did get a couple big reveals.
Glad to hear that.
And we have some very big reveals in the future. So, so if you think you've seen things so far, you ain't seen nothing yet. But we'll get there in due time. I tend to run my games as very, very player directed. So, if the players get there, they get there. If they go into a different direction, then we do that sort of thing instead. But there's some pretty nifty stuff coming up. We're also going to start doing some other types of live streams, very similar to the live stream that Rand had at the beginning of Mysterium, where it just kind of the walkthrough of the game. We're going to start doing that with the Myst games as well. We're going to do playthroughs of the Myst games, and while I give commentary on the game and how to use the elements of the game in Unwritten, and even in other gaming systems. How to integrate puzzles, talking about which puzzles might be good, might be bad, story points and different ways that you can think of you can do integrate them, and whatever else kind of occurs to me at the time. And
like
hopefully
how you might translate a puzzle, say, from the video game context into the unwritten context.
Exactly.
How would you pull off something like the Maze Runner in Fate?
Exactly. How do you do the Maze Runner, or how do you what does it mean in game to have the places of security on Myst Island, and what tower rotation is, but how are you going to walk through that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. If I remember, Rand once said that they kind of ran people through a sort of D&D style game to test out Myst in the first place. So it's kind of a cool sort of way to kind of bring the circle around. But we'll go through Myst. We'll go through all the Myst games, which will probably take a while. And then we'll also go through Uru. And then we may even go through things like abduction, and talks about how ideas from abduction can be run in an unwritten game. And who knows, if Firmament's out, we'll do the same with that. and eventually, we might work onto other games as well. So that's going to be kind of one of our big things. The podcast will continue. We've had to stop because we lost our audio editor. And you may have heard me mention before, we're looking for new audio editors to do sound quality, take out all the because I talk a lot with and so people don't want to hear that. I know I've talked to a couple of you already on some of that. Those talks are still in motion. Don't worry, but we're looking for all our options. And so we're kind of, once we get more there and more of a community there, I think we'll be able to do more, whether it be live streaming or more, physical content or other special projects as we have the ideas. Those of you who know Eleri, Eleri is a font of amazing ideas, and we have some very interesting stuff kind of we're working on there. And we've got some really great people who kind of do stuff with us, whether it's in the game that we run or other places. Curator makes stuff like crazy and just kind of like whips it out, like, oh, look, I've made an unwritten mug. And so we'll be doing some collaboration with him. But yeah, so like I said, the Patreon, it's a new thing for us. Live streaming is a new thing. The podcast is a new thing for us. So we're working out the kinks. But to you Patreon members out there, we will be getting some information next week or so about where our direction is and how that's going to affect you. And, shameless plug, if you want to help us do cool stuff, we have a Patreon. So go ahead and check that out. That's called Unwritten Voices. See, on the unwritten front itself, we have gotten to a point where we can begin to start developing some new content. Unwritten is owned by Cyan, but like I said before, they've graciously allowed us the opportunity to continue to work on things. And we did have a bit of a while where we were focusing on other things, but we will be working on new content. I don't want to give any details right now because the exact nature of it and how long it's going to take we're still trying to work out. And so I don't want to make any promises. But we do have some writers in place, and we're going to get some writing done and hopefully some more things, more titles to have on the shelf. And if we have more things on the shelf, we can work on getting more into physical distribution, actual physical books in stores, which would be pretty awesome. We've had some talks about now that there are physical conventions that are likely to happen, having Unwritten have a presence at some of those. Some of the big ones, Gen Con, Origins, Dragon Con, in some sort. We'll see where that goes. So if you want more Unwritten, it's coming. Soon, as Rand Miller loves to say. But we'll get more details on that when it's settled more. So, yeah, I mean, that's really all the real details that we can let go right now. Like I said, it's not particularly definite, and but we continue to work on things. And one of the things we want to work on is community development and do more with the people who hang out with us on the Cyan chat and the Unwritten Discord. We have a lot more plans for things that we're going to do during games. We are going to be more interactive with the audience during games. You can see in the last video of our last one of the NPCs was actually named by one of the people in our chat. And we're going to continue to do things like that. And there may even be some giveaways that happen during the live stream for people who are in our chat. So keep an eye out for that as well. So yeah, I mean, that's sort of the state of Unwritten right now. Oh, like I said, not a huge amount, but wanted to keep everybody informed. And also, if you have questions about any of that or Unwritten gaming in general, let's see if there's anybody who has some, and I'll talk about that until people tell me to shut up.
You actually hit basically at one of the questions that was being asked in the chat was, I looked at Drive Through RPG this weekend and saw that you can get the PDFs of the other books, but right now the only one being printed is the core book.
hmm
So as you're going to be adding this new content that you're not talking about yet,
Um,
will eventually some of this wind up getting ended into a physical book? Like maybe there'll be I know, say a like Gage
mhm.
Library Compendium or a supplement book one that would be a physical printable of multiple supplements for the people who
our
prefer to have things on shelf.
yeah, our hope is that some of the smaller supplements that we've made, Eleri, who wrote most of those, I mean, we want to get those into some sort of physical format. We're not sure the best way yet. They're pretty small, and so we probably will wait until we get a bit more in terms of number of small things to put together into anthology or collection of some sort. So we hope to do that in the future, but it's not going to be right away. I think we're going to be focusing on some more of the bigger content more immediately, and hopefully in the future we'll have more physical things that people can kind of play with.
Fantastic. Okay, so that was one of the questions.
Sure.
Another question. What is the best way to introduce new people to Unwritten who aren't familiar with Myst or its franchise?
Oh,
It
that's a
sounds
good
like you
question.
started to hit on that a bit when you talked about hoping to have a presence at the next few physical conventions.
hmm
Having it
Yeah,
at gaming conventions for people to do, to be introduced to it through a live play. But if I want to introduce it to people here in, here in Rochester and run that myself, are there going to be tools made available to make that easier?
we have a lot of ideas there. We have there are a few games that I tend to run at conventions that we are talking about, developing into full modules, like a quick start module, or something designed specifically to run as a one shot to get people involved. In our Patreon, we released a couple of very small story seeds that you can kind of use sometimes there as well. We did make those public. I forget exactly where they ended up though. Um, but yes, we want to go ahead and make something like a quick start with a quick start in the rules and a quick introduction to the setting, some sort of adventure module. I'm not much of an adventure module person myself, so I don't tend to write those very well. But we're looking for some writers that will be able to kind of put that out there so that we have a high quality module for people to work with. The game that I tend to run at conventions is actually designed specifically for people who know absolutely nothing about Denis, and involves actually an ARG that leads to the cavern. So it's sort of it gives a reason for people to be looking for something and then to be sort of directed to the cavern. Kind of a more complex of way of handling the call. And hopefully, like I said, we're going to be able to write that up. We have a lot of ideas, not so much time and resources right now, but we are going to keep working on that. Other things that you can do, because this is a really good question. I know that there are a lot of people out there who are gamers, but none, the people they game with are not Myst fans. Um, so I mean, the one shot game is a one shot game of some sort. is a really kind of good way to get people to get the feel of it, especially if you explain to the gamers that this is your fellow gamers that this is a game with a very specific style. There's not a lot. There's no combat. Um, there's no not much focus on violence as a solution. But if you can describe it as something like if you've ever seen the Librarians TV show, or the Librarian movies, or National Treasure. The movie National Treasure is a great example of that sort of adventure. There isn't really a lot of violence in it, but it's all about figuring things out. I think it's important to gauge how good your friends are at puzzles, because that's what they're going to, if they're aware of Myst at all, they're going to look at it and go, wow, we're going to be doing puzzles, right? And you may or may not. And if someone is not a puzzle person, that doesn't mean that they can't play Unwritten, because there are lots of things to do and lots of bits of adventure that you can do that aren't about solving puzzles. So, kind of explaining that, this is like, Indiana Jones, but you don't fight Nazis necessarily. You hide from them, or you trick them, or you're trying to go into old Nazi bunkers and find out and pull out the stuff that they had, or something like that. But yeah, I think that's a good way to present it. And then if you're feeling that you can run a game, run a one shot, see how people do. Often in one shots, there'll be some people who get it right away, and there'll be some people who just don't. And don't let that disappoint you, because sometimes it just it takes time to get into the groove. Find out what sort of adventures they want to do, that sort of thing. For those of you who don't have very many gamer friends physically, really online games, I think they've taken a huge leap forward, especially in the last year for obvious reasons. But you can see they live stream the game that we have, and you can show that to people. There are a couple videos of Unwritten out there. We've done Unwritten at Mysterium a few times, and that's been recorded. So yeah, there's lots of ways to sort of show it to them. I think the biggest block you get will be people who know about Myst, or who encounter Myst will have a very definite idea of what they think that means. Puzzles. Oh, I'm not a puzzle person. Like, well, this isn't necessarily a puzzle game. It's just once again focused on figuring things out, discovering things. So it's still adventure. Myst games are sort of quiet, and they have a slow pace, and Unwritten games don't necessarily have a slow pace. There's still lots of thrilling heroics to get involved in. Online games, your friendly local gaming store, now that they've opened up a bit, that sort of thing. In terms of us getting more information out there, just in general, the conventions, we're gonna have more content. We're going to be reaching out more to other groups in the industry, probably groups like Indie Revolution, and possibly the Indie Game Developers Network. So yeah, we have a lot of things in motion. I don't know if that answered the question you were there. But
I think it definitely does. I think people are happy with that answer. There's some positive thumbs up and responses.
Mhm. I
It's
think
certainly, there's, and I especially like that you pointed out a diversity of options. Like, there's not just, okay, you must run this module in person, like with the D&D or so Adventurers League kind of thing. But yes, there are options for running it online. Yes,
Hmm.
you could even almost see it play by post.
Yeah,
There are certainly multiple ways to
forum
get into it.
games can be run. I mean, any type of way that you can run a game, you can run an Unwritten game.
Mhm.
Um, you just got to figure out, the structure and tools that work for you and your group. And that might be online. That might be, like I said, on a forum. You may be able to get together. Um, but also, once again, you can do lots of types of games with Unwritten. If your friends want to do something with intrigue, there's a lot of intrigue possible. Um, if you friends like politics, you could have different factions in uh in the cavern, whether historical or modern, and you can play with the politics there. Spy sort of stuff. I mean, sneaking into native ages, and they may have stuff there that you need to get into. Breaking into old Denis vaults. I mean, it's all there.
That's
So yeah.
definitely one of the options.
Hmm.
Any other questions? I'm just waiting to collate them all. I'm sorry.
Oh, no problem. Well, I'm
Now people are excitedly talking about I'd introduce Clamas. Clamas. Escape rooms? The Myst games are like that, but bigger. Escape
yeah,
islands, escape valleys, escape mountains with awesome lore.
exactly.
That's
That's
a
that's
really good summary.
precisely it. And one person in the industry once said that D&D, what D&D does is it gives you a reason to string together lots of fights with the same characters. Well, I mean, you can just string together lots of escape rooms.
Yep.
Um, you
Every
know,
age is a different escape room, or every part of an age is a different escape room.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that if Myst were to come out just brand as if it were brand new today, it would be qualified as an escape the room game right away.
Yeah.
Once again, the Miller Brothers way ahead of everybody else. But yeah, and you can if you are one of those people who likes to do things physically and likes props and stuff, um, you know, you can do that sort of thing. Like the escape room that Mysterium did, stuff that Mysterium did a couple years ago, I think it was.
Yep. People
Um,
are people are citing that right now. We've
oh, see, there you
done
go. Great
Mysterium
minds.
escape rooms in 2013 and 2015.
Hmm. Or you can just bring an occasional prop in. Um, Parker made us this great little puzzle box that we used for something at Geek Girl Con. Um, and it's just it's a pretty nifty box, and you can set codes and stuff like that. But you know, just at the in middle of the game, you can just kind of go, oh wait, okay, here we go, fun. Now here we go, get
Parker
it open.
says, glad you can use it.
Parker, you do the most awesome stuff, and we've gotten so much use out of that. Um, at every convention, everybody loves it, and also the Gamadet game.
Everyone loves Cadet.
Gamadet is like people. It attracts people from like all over the floor. You're sort of like, check it out, look at that. So yeah, great stuff, get there, Parker.
Mhm.
It's amazing the number of creative people in the Myst community and the things that they can make.
Absolutely. And that's what's fun with Unwritten too, is that for people who are curious about running it or for whom it's the first time, you don't need to plan everything out and have
Hmm.
a beautiful, rich journal and a bunch of detailed maps already existing. Because honestly, odds are then your players will just choose not to go there and then they will not time. Like, it
True.
can be theater of the mind, it can be description. Really, all you need is a copy of the rules and a set of fate dice
Oh yeah,
and the willingness to tell stories.
exactly. And I mean, we're all storytellers. Um, in one way or another. I mean, we're playing, we're telling us the story, we're imagining ourselves in, as the stranger, or we're talking to each other in cavern, and we're coming up with backgrounds for, how we got to the cavern and, what we did with it, so and so. I mean, we're all storytellers, and that's what Unwritten really is just about. It gives you a set of rules that help you do more, or help you get past, a writer's block or something like that. So my ultimate hope is that Unwritten allows a lot of people to develop their own parts of the Myst universe. Um, and who knows? Maybe someday we'll have a bunch of different games going on in different places, and we can all post stories, and then we'll have histories of what happened in those ages, and what happened in those ages, and what happened to this person and their explorations. You know, the that's kind of what we came with the extent. We came with the idea of the expanded unexplored branches.
Mhm.
It's just there's so much room out there and so many possibilities, that everybody has a corner.
Yeah, I was going to ask if you wanted to talk about uh, those things a little more for people.
Oh, the unexplored branches?
Yep, if you could just go into that in a little more detail. What's unexplored branches? What's the Myst Extended Universe?
Sure. So there's always been kind of a weird set of what is canon in Myst in the Myst universe. And there are different levels. There's Word of Rawa, and then what's other stuff that Cyan puts out. But we know that the novels are not quite as canonical as the games. But Uru's a bit more canonical than the Myst game. So the unexplored branches is the official extended universe of the Myst world, and the idea is built, is that there's all these different, the metaphor is, the tree of the great tree of possibilities, and that there are just too many branches out there that no one's ever going to have a chance to look at. And so you can, you kind of build your own branch. Um, and They're sort of the official unexplored branches, which are the things that Cyan has had a hand in or had some approval of. For instance, unwritten content, ages that people have been making in Uru that have been moved on to the official Uru servers.
Oh, the panel
That's
we just
considered.
had.
Yep, exactly. That's considered unexplored branches, which means that because it's on an official Uru server and something that's monitored by Cyan, that means it kind of fits into that that one more step of canon, I guess.
Sure.
Canonicity is the word I use, but if you want to be fancy. Um, and Also, the unexplored branches includes things that Cyan has come up with and released, but never actually used. So there was that big lore drop a while back with information about Kahlo and Pyrenees and Datane and all kinds of stuff. Now that's design. That was all design work that Cyan has done, but they never actually used in the game. They might use some of it in the game. They might not, but the information is out there so that players can, that fans, unwritten players, fan fiction, whatever, can do things with it. So that information falls under the unexplored branches as well. Once again, something that has a little more canonicity than, say, your general fan fiction. Also, the information came from the Intangibles project, and some of that's from there. Um, so yeah, it's sort of a conglomeration of these things, and we hope it'll grow in various different ways. See more content in Uru. Cyan may release more details that they're, design stuff they just never used. Unwritten will continue to make things, and on the lore team side of things, we'll continue to work with people on, kind of expanding that. Um,
Sure.
Now, I know that Myst fans have had traditionally a very strong respect for canon. It's like, this is canon, this is not. Um, but I think that with the unexplored branches, um, you can kind of see that the canon gets a little bit looser that way. And then that unexplored branches is hopefully going to inspire people to do their own things that are apocryphal, whether it's just fan fiction, or if you want to take a Denis idea and run it into some weird direction.
Yeah, I mean, what if the Age of Kings never changed and the guilds didn't wind up taking on as much power?
Oh
What
yeah.
would happen? There's all sorts of possibilities like that. Or with the intangibles release product that, was going on, there's a bunch of concept art and design documents. If someone's like, well, I need to make an age, but I can't exactly figure out what I'm going to do with
Hmm.
one, there's all that concept art that just dropped. What if you just looked through that, picked up a couple pictures, and said, I'm going to build a puzzle around this. I'm going to
Hmm.
build a concept around this.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, of course, we all love science stuff, but that doesn't mean that the rest of us can't do other things too. So, I mean, definitely, take inspiration, run with it. Um, do weird stuff. Um, you know, um, Eleri had an idea for a background involving a bunch of explorers running away from the Barrow, a background called Asylum. So that's a very sort of apocryphal sort of thing. Um, I've always wanted to do a setting based around the idea that explorers have begun to use computer technology to aid in the writing of ages. Um, and inkjet pages and that sort of thing. Um, you know, Programmatically designed ages, and that moves into things like Mistcraft and the Minecraft area and that sort of stuff like that. It all kind of links together. So yeah, have fun. Um, be bold. You know, Boldly go onto branches that no one has ever gone before.
Fixing your metaphors that a little. Any other questions? Ooh, here's a good one. On the subject of one-shot games to introduce non-Myst fans to Unwritten, have you thought about putting together some sort of Myst primer that avoids specific spoilers about the Myst games, but gives people a quick overview of the Dunnyverse as a whole?
Hmm. Yes. Um, and some of that may end up in one of these quick starts that we talked about.
Mhm.
Um, it may end up being a small supplement, like some of the ones that we've put out. Um, it Actually, in one of the newer versions of the unwritten book, we have I've added a little bit of information like that towards the beginning. Um, and I don't know if it's been moved onto drive through or not, but um, so I mean that's one of the things that we want to do. The trick there, of course, is like you said, not spoiling any of the games. Um, how Determining how much detail you really need to go into for a primer, um, because Myst fans, us, we can go into detail on things for hours on and this is how the linking mechanics work, and the Guild of Writers did this, and the Guild of Caterers did that, and the Guild of Chemists did this, um, and that can be really overwhelming for a new person. The sort of here's your textbook, you know, read through this by beginning of the session, and there'll be a
Has a
test.
test on it, and then after that, only then can you begin to play. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
totally unfriendly.
and that can be really intimidating. I've had that issue with some the games that I've run where people felt that there was just too much. There was too much going on in the universe for them to ever kind of get the hang of it. And so, a primer, and definitely it's that figuring out that balance to give them enough to kind of get the feel of what it's like, what Denis is like, and what the games sort of work like, and those important things that they need to understand, like linking and the cavern and the borrow. without overwhelming them.
Cool.
So it's one of our ideas, yes. And like I said, we have many ideas. Unfortunately, they all take time, money, and energy, and that doesn't seem to be as easy to find as ideas are.
Anybody else?
If not, I have a question for you, Cap.
I didn't do it.
Well, in fact, in this case you did, and we have video evidence.
Oh, okay.
So
Well,
I just wanted to know, what does it feel like for you to, be, playing a game like Unwritten? Because you're in my game. What's it like to you to play a game in Unwritten in the Deniverse after having been a fan of the universe for so long?
it's so much fun. Especially because for me, one of the things I like is that yours is that when we're playing a game, we can diverge from things in canon that are slightly frustrating to me. So, uh, for example, the fact that it's just left out there in the novels and in the supplementary material in Uru that, well, women can't be in the guilds. I find that personally frustrating and agitating, and
Hmm.
I find especially some of the unfortunate colonialism of the Myst series to be problematic.
Hmm.
The way it is both anti-colonialist and also kind of reifies colonialism at the same time. Atris works to overthrow what Ben has built on Riven, but in many ways he winds up doing that again himself,
Hmm.
just out of a place of kindness as opposed to out of a place of control like Yen. But that doesn't make it better.
Exactly.
And
And
what
that's
I
the sort
like about being an unwritten game is being able to challenge some of those things about canon, if you choose to, is to say, I don't actually think it makes sense. It doesn't work for Dunny with the amount of people that would be in the cavern. It doesn't make sense to say that 50% of the population can't work.
mhm. Yeah,
It doesn't make sense for this or that. And the fact that in an unwritten game, you can just look at something and go, that's really dumb and I don't like that.
exactly. Yeah,
I'm going to
and
do
you
something
see
about
that
that.
lots of ways. You know, the Denis were very colonial. They were empire builders, even though they probably wouldn't want to admit to it. Um, but that doesn't mean that you have to run your game that way.
Mhm.
Um, you know, you can have a Denis that's less colonial. I mean, you could have a Denis that's very different if you want.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I mean, canonically, women didn't earn the guilds, but yeah, that sucks.
Honestly,
So,
women didn't really have jobs outside the house, so what the hell was 50% of the Dutty population doing all day?
oh, that's a long story even right there. Um,
So
you know,
those are the kinds of questions you can address in unwritten. So
mhm,
when you ask me, well, what's it like as a fan to get to do this? I mean, I'm not every fan does this, but when I was a younger kid, I used to design my own Myst ages.
mhm,
After Myst and Riven, I used to design my own ages. And then I would write fan fiction questioning some of these assumptions.
mhm,
So being able to bring that into a collaborative space and play with other people
absolutely.
is that's what's fun about it to me is let me interrogate this or let me change things. Let me put my thumb on the scales and see how things are different.
Yeah, and I think that's the great one of the great things about role playing um, as a medium, especially for the Duniverse, because and it's, like I said, I mentioned this before. It's just there's so many different ways to do things, and so many ways that you can take these things in their own directions. And when I played Uru, I noticed that there were a lot of Myst fans who were like, "No, this is canon. This is how it is." And in the layer of canon, yeah, you're right. Cyan said this happened, Rawa said this happened.
Mhm.
But when you start building those things yourself, you can go whatever direction you like. You know, you can, you can play with these issues. You can, rewrite Denise so that that they're not as colonial, or they're not, they don't have this kind of built-in misogyny. Um, you can, use the game as a way to explore those topics. Carefully, of course.
Mhm.
But yeah, you know, you know, what was the tagline we came up with? Your story is unwritten. It's like, it's
Yeah.
your story. You know.
And everyone's stories are going to be a different story, but the
Mhm.
difference between unwritten and fan fiction is getting to tell it with other people.
Exactly.
It's a
And
story that you're telling round robin
yeah,
with other
that may be
people
something
all
that.
building on it.
I'll go ahead.
What about just that? That it's not a singular story, it's a collaborative story, so
Yeah,
it's a story that people are building together, and I think there's a value in that.
absolutely. I think there's a lot of value in that. I think that was the key thing in Uru, honestly, um, was that not as much as the story that Cyan provided and the content that Cyan provided. It was really, it was the Uru, you know, the community, the gathering, and that's the real miraculous thing from Uru. I think that's the thing that I think made Uru so special, and hopefully Unwritten helps you continue that.
Oh, we deeply appreciate you for bringing this to us, and thank you for your time.
Oh, sure.
Anything else you want to say to folks before we head off?
Oh, I'd probably just end up, saying the same things at the beginning. Patreon, give Cyan money, write, make your stories, that sort of thing. And I'm on the Discords. I'm on, we have the Unwritten Discord. I'm also on Cyan Chat Discord. I love to talk about this stuff. So, come talk to me if you like. Bring it up in the channels, whatever. Throw your ideas out. I'd love to see them.
Please join the Unwritten Discord. We're fun.